Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We got a toast with the coffee cup. Haircut. It was time. So, a professor walked into his class and he had a glass jar about yay high, and he put a bunch of rocks about this big into the jar, about the size of golf balls, until the rocks were all the way to the top of the jar. And then he asked his class, is the jar full? About half of them said yes, about half of them said no. He then took a bunch of smaller rocks and started dumping them into the jar and shaking the jar as he was doing that so that they could settle all the way down. And he got about as many of those smaller rocks as he could into the jar. And then he asked, is it full? More of the class said, yes, now it's full. Then he took sand and he poured sand into the jar, kept shaking it until sand settled down and filled in between the space, in between the big rocks and the little rocks. And then he asked, is it full? A larger percentage of the class now said, yes, it's full. Then he took water and started pouring water into the jar. And you'd be amazed how much more water can still go into a situation like that because the sand will soak it up. It'll fit even more spaces. So he kept filling it up with water till it got all the way to the top. And he said, now is it full? And the class now 100% said yes. What's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that there's always more. You know, if somebody said, how many push-ups can you do? You'd think in your mind already you'd have an idea of how many push-ups you could do, which probably would be limiting. You probably could do more than what you think. But you'd get down, let's say you did 20 push-ups. Now, you do that many in one shot. Well, then you would think, okay, well, that's how many push-ups I could do. Well, but what if you took a rest for about 5 minutes? How many more could you do? I bet you could do at least 10. And then what if you rested for another 5 or 10 minutes? How many more could you do? And then how many more could you do? You know, there's a great movie out there where, and I don't remember the name of the movie, but it's a coach with a kid's football team, and he takes his player that has the biggest opportunity for improvement, and he blindfolds him, and he says, you need to carry somebody the length of the field. And he gets the biggest player and puts him on him and says, you know, I need you to carry this kid 20 yards, but I'm going to blindfold you while you do it. So he blindfolds the kid, and he says, you know, he says go, and then he keeps encouraging the kid the entire trip. And keeps saying, come on, you're almost there, you're almost there, you're almost there, you're almost there. Well, at the end of it, when he takes the blindfold off, the kid's gone 100 yards with the largest player on the team on his back. And the point being, we have so many limiting beliefs about what we can and cannot accomplish, what we can and cannot do, that when we take away those beliefs, when we blind ourselves, there's actually so much more that's available. And if we were put in a situation where it was life or death, where it was an absolute must. What are you yelling at me for? Am I doing a bad job today? Shh. If we were put in a situation where it was life or death, Marley. If we were put in a situation where you had to do it for the life of your kid, your effort, there's just tons more gas left in the tank, but we don't exhaust ourselves. We don't truly do everything that we can. Somebody asked me the other day if you could go back to any point in your life and live your life over. The question was, which point would you go back to? Which I don't know why, but immediately a point in high school is what popped into my head. But what really popped into my head was, if I went back to that time, there, I guess she was thirsty. If I went back to that time, the amount of effort that I would put forth from that point forward compared to what I actually did, I mean, would be staggering because of what you would know you could accomplish. You know, you have so much reservation, I think, in life, and there's so many times that we're holding ourselves back and we're not taking the chances and we're not taking the risks and we're not trying. We're trying a little bit and then we're holding back. I mean, if I was to go back now and know what I know now, I mean, all of the screwing around that I did wouldn't happen and everything would be towards generating businesses. I mean, you know, what would you buy? Apple and Microsoft, right? But I mean, you know to do that, but now you got to have money. I mean, you got to go find some money in order to do that. It's not like you go back and you got $10,000 in the bank. You go back and you got nothing in the bank. All right, well, how would you earn money? I mean, minimum wage back then was like $2 an hour. I mean, so what would you do? Mow yards? But you would know what the outcome would be, and so you would just put forth 10 times the effort. Well, why shouldn't we do that from this point forward? So the point of today is there's more. There's more gas in the tank. There's always more gas in the tank. I think, you know, one of the reasons that Tony Robbins has resonated with me so much in terms of the person to convey this message, because this information that you get, I mean, it's a lot of the information is the same from a lot of different people. I mean, they're all kind of telling you the same thing. It's the way that the message is delivered. You know, do you like it from Oprah? Do you like it from Zig Ziglar? Do you like it from your church, or do you like it from a guy like Tony Robbins? You know, I resonate with Tony Robbins because of the energy, because of the passion. But the other thing about that man is he has not wasted a day. I mean, he has lived 1,000 lifetimes in one lifetime. I mean, every day he squeezes every drop out of it that he can. And why wouldn't we do that? So whatever those goals are that we've been looking at, we've talked about taking massive action. The message today is there is way more in our tanks. There is way more that is available for us to utilize to achieve these goals. So as we go forward, remember that jar. When we think we're empty, when we think we're full, when we think we're done, we're not. There's more there. You know, remember that kid. I'll try to find that video and post it. Remember that kid running on that football field. Our limiting beliefs are what keep us down. But if we made it an absolute must, if we made it a must that those goals had to be accomplished within that period of time, if it meant our kids' lives, if it meant our life, we would figure out a way. Oprah did a great show once back in a prior life for me, in a prior marriage. The person that I was married to loved Oprah, so I had the opportunity to get to watch that a lot. But she had a really great show where she had a bunch of people on that had had very, very significant near-death experiences where they should have died and they didn't. Something weird happened and they somehow made it out of their situation. Some were diseased, most of them were wrecks where they should have died. And all of those people had lived extraordinary lives after that. They had climbed K2, they had run marathons, they had written books, they had taken companies public. You could tell that experience taught them that every day is precious, and if all of a sudden you knew that tomorrow was your last day, you would live your life completely differently. You know, as the great guilt band Nickelback says, if today was your last day, what would you do? Well, one day it's going to be. I mean, one day it's going to happen. So we need to get up every day and remember this life is fleeting and it goes by fast. And whatever it is that we want to do, and if what you want to do is just spend the time with your family and have dinner then that's what you want to do. But make sure you don't waste your time on nonsense. Spend your time on the things that are important. Put first things first. Put your goals first. And put forth all of the effort in the world. So my message today is, you got more in the tank. That jar's not full. And Marley is saying good morning. Make it a great day, everybody. Happy Friday. We are all in this together. All the energy in the world. Take it all, everything that you got in order to make everything happen every minute of every day. Let's take care of each other.